Ladies and gentlemen of the old world, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to this community showdown. It's going to be Bretonnia, led by Zetern, facing off against the Greenskins, who shall be helmed by Stelios here on the Imperial Road. And as far as the Legions of the Lady goes, Frontline is going to be Men-at-Arms, backed up by a Grail relic, which is always a good idea. You know, either variant of Men-at-Arms is honestly fine. I prefer the Spear variant with the shields in the front line because of the prevalence of squigs and how boar boys are basically spammed non-stop. But you can use the sword and board variant. They'll trade a little bit better against like goblins and whatnot. So it is going to be Men-at-Arms with the Grail relic giving that nice buff. Secondary line is going to be the holding power of the lady. And I do like the Battle Pilgrims, especially when you mix them with the Fey Enchantress, because these guys next to a Grail relic are sitting at 92 leadership right now, which is pretty insane. So that's going to allow more time for the Fey Enchantress to maybe stack on top of them and then drop some Mortis Engine effects and do some work. So I always like a couple Battle Pilgrims. Backline's going to be Peasant Bowmen, who shoot down the Greenskin archers and put a little bit of pressure on them. And Fey Enchantress and Green Knight. The Green Knight, of course, after the most recent patch, is an absolute hard carry. He got a big cost reduction and is an unholy linebacker, to say the least. Exact same as Tabletop, really. In Tabletop, he is one of the most brutal characters. I'm trying to think of a character in Warhammer the Old World, like a named character. I think he might be the best one. Of all the named characters, the Empire has a cool named character. Hans von Lovenhoek or something like that is how you say his name. He gives you more of a chance to go first in the game, which is good for cannons. But yeah, I think that the Green Knight has got to be the best character in Tabletop, right? Like, named character. I don't know. Maybe there's something else I'm forgetting. I only know a couple factions anyways. So for the Greenskins, it is going to be Azag the Slaughterer over here with Spirit Leech and Buna. Very standard. Spirit Leech can, help against Green Knight. Buna's good against Elite Cavalry. What's not to love? The Greenskin Wog here of Stelios is going to be Orc Boys backed up by Spears, which is always good against Bretonnia. And we do have these Swamp Things. Now, Swamp Things are very good at stuffing heavy cavalry, but they're a little bit vulnerable against missile play. They're, of course, weak to fire, so archers with fire damage can really saturate and do work. I don't know if Bretonnia brought any fire arrows, but regardless, archers are their counter, and Knights of the Realm if they get the charge off. So that's going to be it, and the battle is going to be underway. Bretonnia is going to be grabbing Objective 1 out of the gates, and the Legions of the Lady going to be advancing up while Azag lurks in the back. He just kind of, spying, looking into the distance here, maybe seeing what Bretonnian cavalry are looking to arrive into the battle, but he will be waiting. So will Bretonnia get aggressive and push for Objective 3? I doubt it. This map is typically more of like, I'm going to fight you over the middle kind of map. Bretonnia does have some cavalry out on the flanks. We do see some Knights Errant. Knights Errant are pretty good at charging down like chaff units. But they'll lose against most of the Greenskin Cav. I mean, the Boar Boys will crush them pretty bad in combat. But yeah, charging down Orc Boys and Goblins and Archers, that's like their forte. That's what they're really, really good at. Formation fire coming out of the Bretonnian Archers in the back, shooting into the Orc Boys. Definitely want to focus the Spear variant, probably to open the way for your cavalry in the later bits of the game. And now we see Azag diving in. Not a bad idea, so a little bit of focus fire coming in from the Orcs. And they do also have the Ruggleeds armored Orc Boys or Arrow Boys back there somewhere. I could have sworn I saw them. There they are. Yeah, so they're pretty damn good. They have 160 range, which is much better than the 140 of the Arrow Boys. And we do immediately see one Peasant Bowman getting folded pretty quickly by Azag's attack, and the other side also under heavy pressure from the Greenskins as well. So Stelios getting a lot of value with the Archers right now, and yeah, overall the Bretonnian Archers kind of getting whooped on a bit, which is certainly not fun for them. Value trading going to be favoring the Greenskins out of the gates as their superior archer numbers, and of course Azag's diving in tandem with the Ruggleeds armored Orcs, who are just going to wreck Archers all day. Doing quite a bit of work, but the Knights Errant not going to go quietly. Going to be charging in, making sure the Orc Boys don't get into the backfield and cause big problems. So they're going to do some nice work against those boys. Meanwhile, on the other side, we do have another Knights of the Realm versus Broken Tusk Mob fight. Now, this is a fight that's going to be pretty wretched for the Bretonnians, but with Earthblood and a little bit of life magic support, maybe it's going to be okay. Probably a mistake there by the Greenskin player to pull back the Broken Tusk Mob. He should have just stuck on them and, keep the damage going. Although, with another Knight of the Realm coming in, okay, I didn't see that. So with them coming in, retreating makes a little bit more sense. Looking at the backfield, though, Fey Enchantress and her Battle Pilgrims are doing pretty good work. So these are Men-at-Arms, of course, but she is Mortis Engineering these guys down. And where the hell is the Green Knight? So the Green Knight is helping against the Trolls, which I don't hate. He hits really hard, and he's going to be able to kill the Troll models pretty consistently. So the Wog is active. Big old roar going down to the valley here. As the Green Knight continues to bonk, it looks like another Troll does go down, sitting at 14 models right there. Azag in the back, chasing Knights of the Realm. Now, this actually isn't bad for Bretonnia. Probably just turning around and fighting wouldn't be terrible. Azag is relatively squishy. He only has 70 armor and 32 melee defense, so the Knights of the Realm with their bonus first large can do a ton of damage against him. He's a character that is such a glass cannon. He can get caught, and then suddenly the game that you were thought you were winning is just in the pits of hell, right? So is he going to get caught? The Knights are in really heavy pursuit right now, and another Knight of the Realm coming in, and it looks like he does get partially trapped. He does have good mass. Wyverns have decent mass, of course, more than a horse, but if there's a lot of horses in front of you, you can get trapped up. So we're going to see what kind of damage the Knights of the Realm can do here as the other ones do charge in for the lady. but not such a good charge. They do run some interference, which is buying time for Azag to take some damage, but there are Orc Spears here, and the Broken Tusk Mob is going to absolutely just obliterate these guys. They have 100 armor, bonus first large, amazing AP values, just so many things that are rough, right? So Objective 1 held by the Bretonnians. The Greenskins were able to win Objective 2, but we do see the Swamp Fangs being worn down by Knights Errant in tandem with the Spears and the Green Knight. So Green Knight, absolute Giga Chad, and he should be terror-rotting them soon. If they get terror-rotted, you just kind of chase them off the battlefield with some haggard units there, and you know, that's going to be a big win. And just like we talked about, Azag getting trapped is something that I can't tell you. I used to play Greenskins a bit in Warhammer 2. There was a couple tournaments in which I played Azag a lot when the Greenskin DLC came out, like Grom the Paunch and whatnot, and I really enjoyed using Azag still. And I remember losing so many games because he would just, like, I'd be winning and then he'd just get caught and, like, surrounded because he, you know, he is kind of, like I said, a glass cannon. So Grail Knights coming out for the lady. Let's frickin' go. So they're going to be couching those lances. A little bit of an uphill charge, not quite as epic as downhill, but the Grail Knights will destroy the Orc Poor Boys and also will, you know, probably beat the Swamp Things as well. Oh, these are fresh River Trolls. Okay. Fade Buna, though, might be able to turn the tide of that fight. So Azag helping his boys from the grave here. Not from the grave, but maybe soon to be. And they do have ward save built in. So Grail Knights do take 15% less damage, but no natural magic mitigation. Seems like something they might have in lore, but, you know, hard to say. So the Grail Knight's going to be retreating back away from the River Trolls with the Fade Buna causing a lot of havoc. And it looks like Azag might be able to weasel away here. Okay, that's really big for Stelios because, man, oh man, he was taking an unholy beating there. On the back objective, firmly held by Bretonnia still, but we do see the Orc Boar Boys maybe considering a bit of a vanguard up here, trying to push up on the hill. On the middle objective, the Green Knight and the Grail Relic and some Spheres and some remnants of the Battle Pilgrim Corps still fighting very, very well. But a lot of it's going to be how this backfield fight goes. You know, routing off these trolls. Swamp Things are actually broken. They only have 6 models. Maybe going to come back. It's hard to say. Some of the archers, the Ruglud's Armored Air Boys or Armored Orcs, quite good. I really like them. I think, like, if you're going to bring one archer unit, they're quite solid because they're just so durable and have good melee stats as well. But, you know, as we do get into the late game, yes, the Orcs are ahead in value, but remember the Bretonnians have a lot of healing. And that frickin' Mortis Engine Green Knight blob with the Grail Relic in the middle is going to be really sustainable, and it's going to be very problematic. So a little bit of a pressure here from the Savage Orc Boar Boys, but realizing they're charging into Spears, so they're going to be retreating there. In the backfield, the Grail Knights and the Knights of the Realm have more or less stabilized, and they're going to be crushing these Savage Orc Boar Boys, especially the Grail Knights, because Grail Knights do magic damage, and the War Paint that gives physical resist on the Savage Orcs is not really going to be doing a whole lot for them. So charging on forward are the Bretonnians, and we do have the sustainable core in the middle, but this is a good win con for Stelios. If Stelios is able to isolate and take down the Fey Enchantress, he probably just wins the game, assuming he doesn't lose Azag. But if they trade, let's say that the Fey Enchantress were to go down and then Azag were to die as well, that would probably favor the Bretonnians. Even though Bretonnia's not super high leadership, their infantry are low leadership, their cavalry are pretty good. I think their base is like 65, 70 or something. Oh, Knights, oh, those are Knights Errant. Okay, I was going to say. I think Knights of the Realm, Grail Knights are obviously very high base leadership. They're base 80, and Knights of the Realm, I think, are like base 70 or something like that. It's pretty good. So the Bretonnians surging towards the middle, but going to be getting flanked by some bacon, but not before they get a nice charge right there. Lance is out for the lady, and a couple trolls coming in. The River Trolls, of course, will apply some debuffs and be very good sustainable fighters. But here's the final battle for the fate of Middle-earth. Now, if the Green Knight and the Fey Enchantress can unify with the Cavalry, that's going to basically end the career of the Greenskins here. So the Fey Enchantress probably wants to come over here, join up with the Knights, or just retreat, honestly. Isn't a bad idea either. Spirit Leech going down from Azag. Nice one right there. Fey Enchantress is going to be turning and running, while the middle objective now starts to flip to the lady. And here we do have some Knights Errant coming in. Should be able to finish off the Spears, assuming they charge the right target, which would be the Spear in that case, because they weren't braced. And we're going to see if they can fold these guys up. Spearmen taking damage, Shochu are the Arrow Boys, and the Green Knight's coming over. So that means Terror Route's going to go down, and they're going to start running. So all these guys are just now out of the picture. So Bretonnia kind of looking like they're bringing this game back, right? Like, just the Bretonnian army is a little bit more sustainable than the Greenskin ones. The Green Knight plus Fey Enchantress, the healing, it's just, Greenskins definitely are a faction that like to Unga Bunga very early on, and the late game grinds can be a little bit dodgy for them for sure, especially with Azag. Azag's not a character that's designed to grind for a long time. He definitely falls off a bit. Chalice of Potions attempt, really nice by the Bretonnians, going to be nuking a whole bunch of those guys. Wow, that was perfect actually. Getting rid of the Spears while you have mostly Cav in the middle is so good. And are these Pegasus Knights? Ooh, pretty cool. Savage Orc Biggins being called in, which of course are an anti-large fighter, so they'll trade okay into some of the Cav units, but they're also really squishy, so if they're getting cycle charged by Cav and drained down by the Fey Enchantress, probably going to have a bad time. But if the Bretonnian player doesn't notice what they are and just kind of leaves them in sustained combat, this is where these guys can shine. But we do see the middle objective going to Bretonnia, and honestly, I would say this ain't my first rodeo. This is probably GG. Azag's running away, basically just one unit being trickled in. The dreaded Greenskin Reaganomics here as these guys do move in. Not going to be enough for them. The Green Knight is still just such a menace, and Faye was able to survive, and that's what it came down to a large extent, right? If Azag had been able to scalpel out and take out the Faye Enchantress, then suddenly I think maybe we have a victory for the Greenskins. But in this case, it's just not going to be so. Cav cycle charging moving in, and a big core of Cav, which is just going to be so hard for them to handle. Although the Savage Orcs, maybe, I just don't think so, especially with the Fae. So the Fae Enchantress gets in combat, and then you're going to see this debuff right here, the Mist of the Lady. So that one's draining perpetual HP. Broken Tusk Mob, pretty beast mode, but with the Grail Relic here, that's such an insane boon. All these units are getting the Icon of Devotion, +8 leadership, melee attack, and ITP, which means that Azag can't even terror route them. We also have Pegasus Knights that are pretty healthy. They're going to be flying in and helping out the glorious Green Knight here. So for the lady, just, you know, in this game they're not overpowered, but in tabletop, Pegasus Knights are one of the most cracked units in the entire game. And, you know, that's the reason why Bretonnia is a top 3 faction in Warhammer the Old World. So more Knights Errant coming in, just haggard units for the Greenskins. And yeah, it's really just a matter of time, because Greenskins just are not going to be able to deal with this Anvil of Doom. It's just brutal. Fae Enchantress green, you know, Pegasus Knights are going to get the jump on most of these pieces here. We do see the Swamp Things come back, but the Chad Knights of Bretonnia here getting a beautiful one. And it's really cool to see Bretonnia back in the meta, right? Because they were considered to be one of the worst factions in the game for a long time, but then we had the great players like Anticity and several others pick them up and show that they have some teeth. Really, I think it was just the discovering of how damn good the Green Knight was and how hard of a carry he can be. He's like this backbone for Bretonnia that is so hard to break. Sure, you can Spirit Leech spam him all day, but even, you know, he has healing with Fae Enchantress. It's not necessarily just going to end him. You know, factions that have magic damage characters, like, you know, Azag, for, you know, I think like most wizards in this game, a good mechanic would be is like most wizards should straight up just do magic damage with their attacks. I think that would be a really good change. I don't think it'd be OP or anything. Yeah, it's kind of strange when you see like a Bright Wizard fighting with his stave and literally hitting people with a Fire Staff and it doesn't do magic damage. It's like, what? What's going on here? But yeah, I think this game's over. I don't want to insult your guys' intelligence any longer. We'll fast forward here and see, as we do see the Green Knight cleaning up some of these units here. Bretonnia holding pretty firmly in the middle, trying to steal the back objective. It does look like the Greenskins have a bit of a second win here. Let's see if they can get it back. If they can, we'll go back to normal speed here. But I mean, it just was looking like a couple of haggard units trickling in and being cleaned up here. We do see 1,200 points being approached for the Bretonnians. Fae Enchantress and her glorious Knights holding the middle. Greenskin's going to make one last hoorah, but I mean, with what's-his-name, Azag being so freaking low, he's just being hunted by these Pegasus Knights. He's not going to have a good time at all. Any threat in the back objective? I don't think so. So the back point here is sitting for Bretonnia. We do have Questing Knights in reserve, a nice core of Knights over here, so Knights of the Realm and Knights of the Realm. Green Knight is still full health, Grail Relic, and 2 very healthy Battle Pilgrims are basically going to be impossible to uproot, in my opinion. So Azag does get away with 700 HP. The Greenskin's going to be coming in for their one last hoorah. We'll give you guys some cool cinematic shots. But Battle Pilgrims will be pretty good against the Orc War Boys. Orc War Boys only have 24 melee defense and low-ish armor, so Battle Pilgrims could probably honestly defeat them in one-to-one combat. And with the Fae Enchantress providing her buffs, Questing Knight's going to pop in. They're pretty elite fighters, 43 melee attack, hard hitting. Should be able to cut through what little armor that the Greenskins do have here. So 1,400 points. Pegasus Knight's going to be sweeping around the back and getting ready to go after Azag or dive in on whatever cav units they need to. Really good play from Zeturn, keeping the Fae Enchantress alive as well. And that's going to be all she wrote. Fighting to the bitter end there was the Greenskin player. The game was lost for quite some time, but, you know, he didn't hear no bell. I respect that. So, yeah, overall, the Fae Enchantress Green Knight composition, I think, carried. Fae did pretty good at 1,800, Green at 14. Terror Route's very big, and the Grail Knights, really fun seeing them in action. And, yeah, most of the Cavalry did very well, actually. 2,400 here, 1,800 here. Azag is a risky one, and, I think if Stelios had not gotten Azag trapped early game and lost like 60% of his HP, it would have been a much more even match, because when he just got crushed, he couldn't then get involved in combats and try and make a difference. He had to be like kind of skittish and hide on the outside of the battlefield, which I think was too much for Homie. Anyways, GG, well played. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you back with more sweaty Total War soon.